This is episode 46, titled Addiction Counseling Transform Now, with Rebekah Freedom on the AlternativeHealthTools.com podcast, where together we discover alternative health tools and wisdom from practitioners and experts.
But the highest level, I guess you could say, the level that I operate at as a psychic is to say, let's see what's going on the spiritual level. So biology plus spirituality equals psychology. And that's where the counselors sit. They stand in the gap of biology and spirituality. And the work spiritually is to really get them connected. This is where relationships are so impactful. We are not islands. Isolation, separation is just part of the disease. It's part of the disease. And again, everybody is impacted.
Good afternoon, Rebekah.
Good afternoon.
And I wanted to welcome everyone back to AlternativeHealthTools.com, the podcast. And it is all about alternative health tools from practitioners and experts that are actually walking the talk. And Rebekah's one of those who I met probably about a month ago.
Yeah. Synchronicity brought us together.
Yeah, which is often the case, certainly in my life. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times people say, oh, what do you do? But I like to know first, sort of like, who are you?
Human being, but busy, a busy doing, right? And
yeah.
So who am I is, I'm learning a lot about myself as time goes on. There's this like sweet spot, I think, at age 36 where you're still straddling youth a little bit and the humility of mortality. So that's kind of really coming to the forefront of who I am. But in my practice in my life, I am a psychic relationship counselor. So I specialize in helping people go through the transition of breaking up, finding their life purpose, and really stepping into authenticity.
Nice. So is it actually more than breaking up with a individual, or could it be breaking up with several different things, like an old job or an old idea you might have for yourself, or that's just not working anymore? Or are you sticking to relationships?
My specialty is relationships, but the framework of transition is everywhere, right? Like that's, and that's why I named my business Transform Now Counseling, because there's such powerful space to be able to just use and leverage those hard transitions. If it's divorce or a death in the family or health issues, whatever it is, it's really sort of the great catalyst for transformation. And that's what I specialize in helping people get through.
That's nice. Yeah. Before we get into the topic of the day, which will be addiction, it's like you've had quite a bit of training, right? Yeah. So
yeah. Both street training, I guess you could say, and life training mostly, and then also formal training. So I've spent quite a bit of time in school. I would say 7 years total with my undergrad and graduate, getting degrees in psychology, understanding human behavior. And then I'm, I guess, fortunate enough to have the Irish-Scottish side of my family. So I know a wee little bit about drinking and the Italians too. So I'm, definitely training in the field of family issues. Yeah.
Nice. So where do you want to start with talking about addiction?
I just really want to acknowledge for everybody who's listening just how prevalent it is. It's just, it's not this rarity that we think of. And there's a lot of shame around being an addict or using drugs. And And then also the distinction between, well, I'm on prescription drugs versus street drugs versus whatever. So I just want to acknowledge that addiction impacts all of us, every single person on the planet, whether it's just like 6 degrees of separation. There's some people that, it's a long reach, and there's others that it's really direct, that it's impacting their lives, their choices. And I just want
lots of family members.
Yeah, lots of family members. So in talking about addiction, I just want to acknowledge for those listening, like, I get it. I get you. I get the impact it has, and want to like really kind of dive deep into some different perspectives about it.
And people don't like to talk about it, do they? That's a tough one.
Yeah. That's a shame aspect of it, is keep it secret. And there's a saying in the field, we're sick as our secrets.
Say that again?
I said there is a saying in the field that we are as sick as our secrets.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So I can kind of go into a little bit around, what is addiction? Like, what is it? And my perspective of addiction is separation from God. It's just in reading kind of the Course in Miracles and just reading other studies, religious texts, different scientific texts. There's the current rat study that's out that's like the depressed using rat was isolated alone and had just cocaine water to drink, and they're like, oh, look, he's drinking so much cocaine water. Well, if you're in a room alone with cocaine water, like, what else are you going to do?
Right.
And then they put that rat in like a happy playground with other rats that socialized, and he was like, not so much with the cocaine. So
really?
Yeah, so they're just showing that that one of the antitheses of addiction is connection. And so that's why I say, like, our biggest cultural addiction or global addiction is separation. We're separate from,
although maybe in indigenous cultures, maybe not so much, right? Because a lot of those cultures don't stray too far. Yeah, but certainly in our culture, it's really changed. Yeah, actually, what I see, and it's a model I've sort of realized, is that it used to be that at the top was God, man's business, government, and business. The whole thing's been flipped around. God seems to be at the bottom of the. Would you agree? Not for everyone,
right? Well, one of the reasons I specialize in relationship things is because romantic love is the last deity we haven't completely killed. Yeah. We'll still worship it. We'll still, slave our lives away for this great escape that is romance and the, the freaking Titanic, like on this, on the bow of the boat or whatever. So have we flipped God around? We've certainly taken every single thing from, you see it in the movies, from like Bad Mom and Bad Santa and, and just taken the extreme behaviors and turned the volume up on them, i.e., quote unquote, reality TV. I was like, whose reality is this?
Yeah,
like, whose reality, right? Yeah. It's a reality of separation. So when you say, have we turned God upside down? Yeah, we have, and this is part of the perpetuation of addiction. The other, so for those listening, I just want to kind of go through the different bullet points. One, just empathy towards addiction impacts all of us. And then the second thing is addiction is really separation. So separation, what I mean by that is that we all have our escape mechanisms. We all have the, shopping. Amazon is definitely an outlet for people because we're all made in the image and likeness of God. And I don't want people to get hung up on the God word, so I'm going to kind of use AA's thing of God or the force as you know it to be,
spirit,
nature, laughter, whatever that is for you. Like it's not about a particular dogma when I say that we all have our way of believing in fear, believing in fear versus believing in God or love or whatever. Mm-hmm. So when I say separation, I mean escape, believing in fear, stinking thinking. Yeah. So whatever. So that's the second point. But then the third point I really want to dive into is, what do we do about it?
Okay.
Right? What do we do or how do we be to really shift that reality? And that's where the alternative perspective, I think, really
Great.
helps.
Let's dive into it.
Okay.
Great. So what is your perspective on that?
Well, I feel just humbled and blessed to be a psychic, to have this level of ability, a strong sixth sense. Mm-hmm. And it has provided me with the perspective that addiction, when specifically substance abuse, like using meth or oxy or opiates or sometimes sometimes cannabis, sometimes mushrooms, like even in those realms, whatever you do to alter your state, an extrasensory state, can really open you up to what I would say the spiritual realm. And again, to use a quote from the Bible, is that our war is not against flesh and blood, but it's against principalities and powers. So without going too far into the Apocrypha or anything like that, principalities and powers are a hierarchy of angels. So in the 1600s, the Catholic Church put angels into a hierarchy, archangels being at the top, and we're familiar with some of them, Michael, Gabriel, and so on. And then there's cherubim and seraphim. So we know about those, like the cherubs are like the little love angels we see on Valentine's Day. And seraphim, I don't know, Google it. I don't. And principalities and powers, I think, are considered the fallen angels, the ones who, I think the story goes, again, you can fact check me, is that Lucifer was the angel of light and music, and he was walking around heaven being like, I'm a badass. What I don't need, like it was like some sort of like turf war, like the West Side Story or something. And he was like, I'm out of here. And God's like, he took 1/3 of the angels with him. And i.e. that's what principalities and powers are. Angels that were like, we don't need God. We're going to do our own thing. So the mythology, if you will, goes that they are beings without bodies roaming the earth and, doing gang warfare, if you will. And they are the harmonics of like shame and greed and guilt and the 7 deadly sins and gluttony. And they keep those energies, fear, basically perpetuated. Now, the motivation of this, I don't know. I'm not that deep of a scholar in this, except to say, obviously, if you look around at your neighbor or yourself, we've all had a depression. We've all had a sadness, or even sometimes those fleeting thoughts of like, why am I here? What am I doing?
Where these energies were present.
Yeah. And it's very, and normally what you feel is like a looping thought, like an obsessive sort of thought. Because there are thoughts that can come and go. And if you're a meditation practitioner, you get pretty practiced in non-attachment of
just watching it, let it go.
Yeah. Drop the project. Don't let it really. But the obsessive thoughts, the thoughts that create the compulsion to use meth, the compulsion to use an opiate, or the compulsion to buy, or the compulsion to use a human, right? Sex addiction is a very real thing. And porn entrains the brain because it produces the same level of dopamine. I always screw this one up, but it's oxytocin, which is our bonding molecule. Like,
didn't screw it up, by the way.
Yeah.
Just took a little time.
I was like, it's in there. So that's another point I would say. It's the amazing thing about addiction is everything we need to be addicted exists in our body already.
I have heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. And we just amplify it through external substances.
So why do we do that, though? What usually triggers an addiction is the question I just asked you.
Yeah. Fear. But to expand on that, it is what I witness working in a rehab facility is this inability to be with self. This like inability, like, to me, it's the quandary of a soul and a body, right? This infinite soul. And we, there's plenty of like hallmark statements of like, God is love and love is everywhere. And I don't mean to be pejorative in my saying that, but when you're like, got to pay the bills, you're just like, who gives a shit? You're like, whatever, like love schmove, like give me money.
Yeah.
So like, and then everybody goes through their like manifestation channels and they're like, law of attraction, law of attraction, law of attraction. So what perpetuates addiction is this inability to be human. It's inability to be human, and because living as a infinite soul in a finite body is one of our great mysteries. It's like the core mystery.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like WTF.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to carry us through, like one of the things that perpetuates like addiction is non-awareness. And I want to really use David Hawking's emotional scale.
Okay. So talk to me about that. Lisa Thorpe, who
Yeah.
originally, started this with me, we co-produced this show. She loves him. So talk to me about it. Yeah.
So he's got 2 books, Power versus Force, I think is his most well-known, and Letting Go, The Path to Surrender, which I'm halfway through and it's really amazing. And he dives deep into the emotions that we know, shame being at the lowest level. And he used kinesiology muscle testing to be able to discover like wavelengths, I guess you could say, hertz of emotion. So to put this into just real simple terms, like red, the color red as a wavelength is a slow moving particle. And so we interpret it as red. Purple is a really fast, ultraviolet is a faster moving particle.
And we're talking about a higher vibration.
Yeah, higher vibrations. And then you have all the rainbow, the spectrum in between. So emotions fall on a spectrum. And the lowest being shame, the highest being peace. Peace is next to enlightenment. Now, what's the most fascinating about this scale is right in the middle, before you switch from what you would call negative, lower vibration, lower level emotions, or as my friend calls them, the harmonics of stupidity. Before you switch into, right next to each other is pride and then courage. And according to David Hawkins, they're only 25 points away from each other.
25 points on a scale of what?
So every of the vibrational scale.
So is that hertz?
Yeah.
Is that, okay.
Hertz, yeah.
Wow. That's close.
I know, right?
That's really close.
Right?
Yeah. For those that don't know, it's like, yeah, that's really close.
And when I do when you see the addiction work, that is often the point of pride. I'm doing, I have nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Denial, like I'm fine. I'm doing things fine. I'm good. I'm a functioning alcoholic. I'm a functioning addict. I still go to work. I still pay my bills. Yeah, maybe I was homeless that one time, but I'm not homeless now. Right? Pride.
Yeah.
Pride is just this inability to like this unmovable object. Courage is the open heart. It starts the beginning of receptivity. So that's something I would say about what do we do about really.
So that's a lot of your work working
Yeah.
with individuals
Yeah.
is to get to that place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So how do you deal with somebody that is in huge denial? What do you do? I mean, but with your abilities, I'm imagining there's no set answer. You're going to navigate the waters with that person to find the opening for what? Acceptance, self-love, esteem. Do you actually ask them to do things in their life to sort of give them that experience? Or what? Give me an idea.
It's like I just often tell people kindergartners don't go to Harvard the next year.
Yeah.
Like very, like 0.0000, maybe one ever just hit the ground running at age 3, and it's just, so what do is you walk them through the process of providing the language, the education about understanding the systems of the body. So biology is a very first thing of like understanding you're impacting your brain, your nervous system. What is your nervous system? What is a nerve? Like, why does that matter health-wise? Well, your health impacts your psyche impacts your health. So, and then after you go through that, you kind of rise to the level of what we call cognitive behavioral therapy, which is your thoughts are things, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So you start to really choose, you start to really get associated with choice versus compulsion, right? Compulsion just says, I'm uncomfortable, go smoke meth. I'm comfortable, like go buy something. I'm uncomfortable, I can't be uncomfortable. I can't sit with self, can't be uncomfortable. So after you start the educational piece, then that starts to lift people up a little bit more. Then you step into the sort of personal responsibility piece, ability to respond, where they can start to be like, oh, my choices, consequences, and really see that. Because a lot of what happens is blaming. Oh, it's my mom's fault. It's my dad's fault. And bad environments beget more bad behavior. So I'm not dismissive of that. I certainly see the pain in my clients' eyes when they're like, I can't go back home, but I have nowhere else to go. And I can't go back to that environment if I want to live a different lifestyle. And it is quite a struggle. So a lot of empathy in that area. So But the highest level, I guess you could say, the level that I operate at as a psychic is to say, let's see what's going on the spiritual level. So biology plus spirituality equals psychology. And that's where the counselors sit. They stand in the gap of biology and spirituality. And the work spiritually is to really get them connected.
To themselves. To anything else? It's really ultimately to themselves. Without running. Without denying. Without creating a story that hasn't been questioned or isn't even true.
This is where relationships are so impactful. We are not islands. Isolation, separation is just part of the disease. It's part of the disease. And again, everybody is impacted by that. We've all had those moments. I think there's a difference between be still and know that I am God, right? And using the phrase I am to connect, to be, whether in nature or in your room or silent with music or whatever it is that gives you that lifted feeling, right? That communion feeling that's quite different than isolation and hiding and tucking the secrets away and then just perpetuating that just like running behavior. Clients call it chasing the dragon.
Incredible. Well, I'm sitting here going, I've had these experiences before. And then I just reflected at what you said at the top, which was everybody experiences it. Yeah, I've had my moments of shame. And actually being homeless once, So, I mean, you can have a place to live and still be homeless.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what's going on up here.
Yeah.
Or what's going on in your heart. I felt that.
There's a training of the mind So the Course in Miracles, I just came across, they're like, the mind is where we learn, right? So in the same way that biology meets spirituality, psychology, same, right? Like our bodies, the core essence of the molecules that have come together to form the vehicle that's, and going through the space and time and aging is just survival. That's it. The body is programmed for survival, just to breathe. And in fact, the brain is split up, the human brain split up into 3 different things. The first is the frontal cortex, which is the meaning maker, the will to meaning, where we find purpose, right? The middle of the brain is where we keep our memories. And then there's the fornix, which is like the dream weaver part of our brain. And we can't lay down memories without emotions. The molecules of emotion, the neurotransmitters, are what lay the blueprints of memory down in our middle brain, in our animal brain. Then the very back of our brain is responsible for just temperature, heartbeat, respiration. When people drink to black out, they've shut off the top 2 parts of their brain. So they're literally in just pure animal, primal instinct, just pure survival part of our brains.
So it encourages and forces the whole fight-flight scenario.
Yes. Yeah.
That's why, maybe why some people, when they drink a lot, get angry, get hostile.
Yeah, the hostility, actually, anger is one of our most mobilizing emotions. So hostility is what you see as a hostile person is the body saying, we're about to die. We're about to die. Get the blood flowing. Get anger going. Get this person moving, respirating. Because if we pass out, we're pretty much screwed. And you see people die from drinking or overdosing so in respects of the mind is the intercession between whatever this great infinite universe and our bodies. And so our mind is where we learn. Our mind is where we choose. And then someone really screwed my mind up and they're like, who's doing the choosing? And I was like, oh crap, great. I don't know. So it's a teaching of the mind to choose the continual thought, the universe has my back. I'm supplied for. I'm not alone in this world. Everything is unfolding on time. Everything is happening perfectly. I can't imagine something that wouldn't be in my capabilities to experience. That one is Buddha / Eckhart Tolle / whoever has rebranded it. It's going to be on Oprah next week probably. And that is the pattern of thought that creates resiliency, the ability to connect. You don't shut down when you have hard experiences. You just understand that that we're all diamonds in the making.
Well, I know I am.
I'm sure there's plenty of diamonds out there. So,
they're made under a lot of pressure too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can do nothing to grow. A
Yeah.
lot of people just want to sit around. I'm just going to grow.
Right. It's like as if I think one of the core concepts of an addict is they don't deserve pain.
That's what they believe.
Like it's sort of just like this underlying entitlement that happens. Like I shouldn't ever be uncomfortable. And because biologically speaking, we're programmed to go towards pleasure and avoid pain. But pain is just a message that we aren't listening to. We're not willing to be like, oh, what work needs to be done.
To me, that's what it is. That's what pain is. It's call it a wake-up call if you want, but something needs your attention.
Yeah, it just needs your love and attention. The seeds are like, put me in the ground if you want to have a harvest.
Yeah.
Put me, versus just looking at the seeds being like, plant yourself.
Yeah.
Just grow, cut yourself. That's how I am about my dishes. I'm like, just do yourself. Dishes. Yeah. So to sort of really kind of, I like to say John Madden things. I always, when I'm doing counseling with people, there's so much information that comes in And it can be hard to sort of like track the bullet points, like what things are coming up. So for those listening, whatever's been impactful up to this point, I just ask that they like maybe write it down, just do a couple of their own bullet points. I always say this with my clients. I'm like, given the information that's come through today, what has been the most impactful, right? So at this point in the conversation, I want to kind of give pause because we've hit, I think, some different points about, angels and spiritually transmitted diseases, as STDs in that sense, if you will, like addiction impacting all of us, like what, and then to really be circumspect about what that means. I certainly have my struggles around it as well. And then, whatever else we've said up to this point that has really like made a difference. It's sometimes really good. And this is one of the habits of a healthy person, is being able to come back to this moment, to this right now, right now, like, because there's plenty of the future casting, which creates anxiety, like living in the next thing, the achievement, the addiction of achievement, or lamenting what could have been done, which is depression, like focusing on the past. So I invite everybody to just show up now, right now.
And if you're driving, it doesn't mean you're going to be writing.
No.
So please don't.
Yeah.
Just be here.
Yeah. Just be here. If you're operating any heavy machinery, just take a breath and just be here. And that's, I think, one of the more potent ways to start to address addiction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No matter how uncomfortable it may be.
It's particularly uncomfortable.
To me, I find it uncomfortable to be present sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I really just try to force myself. And I've gotten to a place where I have a really difficult time remembering a year ago. Or even a month ago. Mm-hmm. More and more of that. I'd just soon be right here.
Mm-hmm.
The future, don't know. Sometimes, planning's required.
Mm-hmm. We always plan from the now, though. That's like that's one of the greatest dichotomies too. Of like, someone told me one time the difference between waiting and patience is waiting is believing you're not going to get it, and patience is believing you will. It's like patience is like, it's coming. It might not be here right now. As Esther Hicks said, I'm not going to eat every meal I would ever eat in this moment today. I'm excited to be able to grow and learn and to be able to like go through the course of contrast. And I thought to myself, because I had a client who at age 25 had made $400,000, had cars, was addicted to cocaine, and he kind of stuck the landing really young in life. And it created this sense of boredom. And I was like, because there's this, I guess, pressure that this, like, you need to know, you have to have this certainty at age 16. Why aren't you a CEO of a company?
Right.
Like somehow in our denial, it's like a very reverse thing. Cause I see Peter Pans everywhere. No one's growing up because of this pressure to grow up so fast. I don't really, it's like this really inverse correlation.
I've been seeing that a lot. People have been talking, it's just way too much. People are, have their kids going bang, bang, bang from one extracurricular program to another.
Right.
And I don't know if it's to keep them busy or I don't know why they do that.
Yeah.
I mean, my idea would be to take your, to head for the mountains. Right? I mean, I think given where we live, the beach.
The beach.
I mean, right? So you're from Colorado. How long you been here?
A year.
Okay, a year. So, and I've been here 3, and it's just like a couple months ago, it sort of hit me. Oh, yeah, the beach is the wilderness, Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So, there's just this intense pressure to just figure it out. And what happens is when I witnessed this kid who stuck the landing, I was sort of like, oh, I'm okay that it's taking me time that there's this unfolding that's happening, right?
Yeah, enjoy the trip.
And because I remember at age 24, the Book of Miracles or the Course in Miracles showed up in my life, and I was like, why would I read that? That's stupid.
Yeah.
Like I was just not about it. But age 36 now, I'm just like, I am able to receive it in a different way. A carving has happened. The amount of, as I think it was said, the amount of pain you can hold, that you can tolerate, is also symmetrical to the amount of joy that you experience, right? The Tao, the yin and yang, the dark and the light, that if you can only cherry pick and say, oh, no, I can't handle anything that's other than me, than other my like 5 beliefs that I have that I rule my life on, these 5 points of view. If they go away, oh no, then you can't have very much joy either. You're in, you know.
To me, that's a principle.
Yeah.
I mean, it just is.
Yeah.
I mean, every high has a corresponding low. So it's like every behavior. It's like, if you're willing to experience only a little bit of life, you're not going to get a lot out. Sort of the man with the most wood gets the warmest blaze, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And I've actually been looking at that in my life, too.
How so?
I just want to be more involved. It's like spend a lot of time here, too much time here. I want to be out in community more.
So,
yeah,
that's again, just full circle, is community, relationship is what heals addiction.
Yep. Like
being seen, right? Because I'm a very self-contained person. I think part of it might be being Aquarian, like having the Aquarius, like save the world nature, sprinkled with like the lineage of martyrdom in my family. Hi, Mom. And family. And connection, like when someone really stops and just gives you presence, they're able to be there. They're not making a list of the things to do. I recently had it reflected to me that I connect over tasks. Like if we can do a task together.
Like podcasting?
Yeah, like podcasting. Or writing my next novel or movie. Hello, producers out there. Anyone? I'll take it. Let's get together over coffee. Fine. But if I just have to show up with nothing to do, I'm like very vulnerable space.
See, that's what I love. I love to just like show up and create. Go, okay, great. We have these ingredients, this ingredient. It's like cooking. You just go to someone's refrigerator, start pulling stuff out, and you make something.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And so, but what I would say is that everyone has their own way of being in relationship.
Right. So your relationship, it has to be on the calendar, and there has to be a task associated. You must love Google Calendar. I'm
like, let's color code this. We'll get together. It'll be like a 10-minute sesh, maybe an hour, depending if I'm interested in you or not. I have double booked everything just in case. So that's sort of like
hedging your bets, are you?
Yeah, hedging my bets. So, but it's really so to just come back to the solution for addiction is connection, right? It's human connection, but it's also connection to nature, to God, to those, because you need to have a pulse in order to have life. You need expansion, which there's a big part of the hippie community / every festival ever created that's like, woo, expansion, and then people come home and they just drop. They're just exhausted, contraction, right? But you need both for there to be life. And I think what happens is that you start to esteem one over the other, male over female, dark over light, right? Like money over charity or whatever. You start to really pick sides. You start to like live very in the extreme black and white thinking. And so the healing happens through relationship, through the integration, through acceptance, through I can just be who I am and it's okay. I just want everybody who's dealing with an addiction right now, just receive that. Like, It's okay. You're okay. It's like you're not bad. You're not, the resulting things that have been chosen may have created bad consequences. But life has a learning curve. And love, the greatest force ever, has a freaking learning curve, right? You have to kiss a lot of toads sometimes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's like, that's the miracle of being in a body, is to learn choice and consequence, action and reaction.
Yeah. About 2 months ago, it sort of dawned on me that all life is one experience after another. Mm-hmm. And it's like when you're not experiencing, and experiencing can be absolutely doing nothing. Mm-hmm. That is an experience. Mm-hmm. But it's just like, oh, okay, great. Just experience it. Feel it. Mm-hmm. Breathe it like you just did. Mm-hmm. So last week, I'm going to do a plug for trevorgreenmusic.com. So a friend and I went to CD release party in San Diego at World Beat. Mm-hmm. And it absolutely connected me to a community and the earth. Didgeridoo, guitar, Navajo dancers.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
And deep drums, deep rhythm, the pulse of the earth.
Yeah.
And it's just like, sorry, I might get addicted to this.
Yeah.
But not forever.
Yeah.
But it's like, anyway.
Yeah.
So, you go, you do the community thing, you get involved, you experience something, you feel lightness, you feel a part of something, and then you come home and shrink.
Yeah.
I got that.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that's life.
Yeah.
That's the pulse of life.
So being comfortable with that uncomfortableness. Mm-hmm. And then okay, great, I want more. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of the nature of addiction, right? I mean,
yeah, and it's
more complex.
Addiction,
than that,
there's a rigidity. That's what I would say.
Okay.
There's rigidity to the I'm just going to say tight and contracted because I'm getting something out of, like, I'm so strong in this fear, like, or just pushing the boundaries, just going out further and further and more and more and more and push and push and push and push. So my friend gave me such a great definition for sobriety. They said sobriety is emotional maturity. And addiction is anything we do to stop us from feeling our feelings. Anything
we do that stops us. That we stop ourselves.
Yeah, we stop ourselves.
From feeling our feelings.
From feeling our feelings, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so just to boil it down to make it super, super simple to something that creates chaos, complication, confusion, disconnection, is that sobriety is emotional maturity. And emotional maturity is just being conscious about your choices. Mm-hmm. Being like, oh, I chose that. Oh, interesting. It created this experience, and I can choose and then choose and then choose and then choose. And oh, look, it created that experience. Oh, now I can choose. Because what happens, and I see this with marriage all the time, is on some effing day in April, someone's like, let's get an altar and we're going to make some vows that are supposed to just be forever, right? Well, vows are like milk. They have an expiration date and you need to renew them. You don't just buy one jug of milk and be like, for the next 30 years.
Well, it's not going to be milk at some point.
Right. But this is the only milk ever. You have to go renew it. You got to get. And so I think that's something people, the rigidity in addiction is that you make a choice and then you're locked in to that there's no redemption. There's no renewal for you. You are just a sinner and you are bad and you are forever fallen. There's going to be no forgiveness. And my favorite definition of forgiveness is abandoning the hope that the past could have been any different than it was, right? The past was your learning curve. And then Steve Maraboli, he always says, my setback is my stage for my comeback.
My setback is my stage for my comeback. How fabulous reframe.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know what that is.
Yes. Yeah. The bow and arrow effect. A bow has to be pulled back ever so tightly, almost to where it's uncomfortable in the hand that's pulling it back before that arrow can be ever launched forward into and guess where the arrow goes? It's heading towards a target, but between the target And it being released, it's in this great unknown. It's in the mystery. And because I'm a quote person, I would say my other favorite quote, is ascribed to Osho, is that courage is a love affair with the unknown.
Courage is a love affair with the unknown. Of course, folks, you're listening to this, and if you're accustomed to going to alternativehealthtools.com, you're going to have to go there and look at all the show notes, because I'm going to include a link to everything.
Totally.
And we're probably, usually the show notes say, okay, this is who you are, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to drop in a whole bunch of quotes and links. And,
you guys are going to be resourced to come into that healing power of relationship and of connection for sure.
So this feels like the other night I was exposed to the notion that we're not going to think outside of the box. We're going to create a new one. So that's what this feels like to me in terms of people's, oh wow, I can just drop everything I thought about whatever I thought about addiction, my addiction, and maybe I can just with your help, create a new box.
With that, so the two things I would add as far as a new paradigm, right?
Yes.
If we're just going to crack this open a little bit, is I tell my clients, I say, listen, you have a wisdom that I won't have. I do not have the wisdom of being in an alley, chasing down a drug dealer, having time in jail, getting shot, and still being here.
Yeah.
Still somehow some intelligence was your life is still precious enough that you've made it to a rehabilitation center.
Amazing.
Life training. We call it sort of life support because we're taking, we're rising people from the depths and trying to get them the education so they can go forth and make different decisions, whether they do or not. We never know after they leave. It's a bit challenging because.
Well, it's like being a chemo nurse.
Yeah.
It's like they're done with their treatment or whatever, and they leave, and you just don't know.
You just don't, but you just hope that you do the best. So the paradigm is there's that I don't think people hear enough. There is wisdom that comes when you look back at the choices you've made, and you're able to first be responsible and take ownership of those consequences, and then be did I like those consequences? But that's wisdom, right? And being able to apply the experience moving forward to create something different, or if you like that experience, to keep going down that road. I will say no one ever have I seen really loves their addiction. They don't love the addiction. They don't. It's it's an abusive relationship. It's a very abusive, trauma relationship. Yeah.
So it's a relationship with who or what?
The relationship is with the ideas that are created through the drug, right? Through the psychosis, the fallacy of fear that this is the best I can do, to be able to medicate myself with again, whatever substance is out there, or whatever perpetual action you're doing that step one in AA that makes your life unmanageable. My life has become unmanageable, and that sense of being beyond your capacities creates an addiction. So the thing outside of the box is great. You know what? Fine. Go make your choices. Go make your choices in life. We wage wars. We have this dichotomy. We're not going to escape it as long as we're human. But the power is in the wisdom that comes from it. And the second thing I would say, the outside of the box, just really crack this open, is that 90% of what we think and feel isn't ours anyways. It's not ours. It's we're picking up, our body is picking up. Think about all the different tones and sensations and feelings and everything that we're not conscious of. 90% of it is they say we use 10% of our brain. So 90% is in this Plato's cave or whatever, right? This cavern. So wouldn't it then make sense that there's other dimensions?
Absolutely.
Other whether alien dimensions, if you want to go that far out, or spiritual dimensions that are impacting the way our being is showing up, right? And so when I say that there are negative forces. If you are choosing to use substances, to medicate, to escape, to not be with self, well, you better believe you're going to get a crew of people, of spiritual forces that are going to help you stay that course, right? And I also tell my clients that death is not the worst thing. Living hell on earth is, and perpetuating that is, because we can actually harness our addictions to create heaven on earth. We can do that. We can, and it's through, and Viktor Frankl said it, through making a decision. And the decision is to find will to meaning, purpose, direction, empathy, giving back, connection. I hope people are getting it. I hope you're getting it, that it's about relationship and connection and not the fake connection we get through our iPhones or through whatever. It's that human to human touch and our interaction that really shifts everything, shifts a lot. Yeah.
I've been working really hard on this podcast to not talk too much because it's like one of the gifts I'm aware of and within myself is I can just be here and you can just open up, right?
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely grateful. Mm-hmm. So I'm sort of curious about, without names or anything else, but is there a particular case that you may have worked on, either in the rehab center or outside, whatever, that sort of stands out in your mind as an example of a transformation and maybe what that process is about?
I'm so glad you asked.
just one. No names.
No names, never. And I just, again, that I want to honor that there is a privileged seat I have being a counselor, and my role as a counselor is not an accident. It's something that grabbed me and pulled me over and over again to be in this. And so I know the sacredness of that relationship. Mm-hmm. So in sharing this, it's going to be pretty general and more of my experience of it. So oftentimes when I'm having conversations with clients or whatever, ancestors like grandma, grandpa come step forward. You'll hear mediums say this often. Oh, like Esther stepped forward and she wants to say something to you, like Grandma Ethel or whatever. So, or angels will come in, and it's just, I can't ever see them like you would with your physical eye, but I have a kinesthetic knowing that they're there. And so that's part of a clairvoyant, sort of clairaudient ability. And with this particular person, I was like, well, your mom has passed away. Let's check in with her, right? Because it was sort of a curiosity of this person, and we had time, and so I check in, and then I see something that is garnered through years of experience of doing this, and I really want to emphasize just how serious and real this is, and it's not to be messed with, right? Do not try this at home if you don't have the practice and the connection or whatever. This is some serious work. So when I looked at the energy of her mom, all these other demons, what you would call, or poltergeists or different energies came through as well. So as I'm having this conversation, the image I got was the essence of mom was very, very small and was surrounded by all these negative energies. So, because mom had died through overdose. So the work, of course, the person I was having a conversation with was freaked out, right? Was you could just had that prickles up the back and just that the body sensations. It was but
there's a knowing there.
Yeah, there's a knowing. There's I can feel this. There's a knowing. And it was, for me, it was just witnessing, I was so calm in that space. I wasn't afraid. I didn't have fear. I had what you would call the peace that passes understanding. And I was very much all right, Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Archangel Uriel, Archangel Gabriel, stand at the four corners, and whatever comes through may be for our best and highest good. That's generally an intention prayer that I set. And then if you could have seen what was happening in real time at that moment, the place we were at looked like the Battle of Braveheart, like it looked like spiritual warfare was happening. And part of my practice being raised in the Pentecostal church is praying in tongues, which is the intercession of the Holy Spirit for you. And I just told her, I was like, this is going to get weird. It's going to get weird. But that kind of came through. And so what happened is that was one conversation. Then 48 hours later, we stepped into another conversation, and this person was transformed. She was like, I get it. I'm meant to be a light worker. I've been running from this. I've been afraid this whole time. I've known something's been here. I've been unwilling to face it. Like, I haven't known how to do it. She's like, I have this particular sensation in my body that I'm picking up. I'm clearing that out. Started to do the work. And what I would say, and again, judgment withheld, that part of the process for her was utilizing pagan rituals, which is like using lavender, using selenite, using crystals, using like hot baths, using like music and things like that, was her way in to starting to accept that she was a light worker, that was the work that was supposed to be done. But there was such a powerful block there on a spiritual level that first needed to be acknowledged. Oh, and this is the part that was like the kicker, because it was like, wow, where did this energy come from? Like, what is this? Is that in this person's particular lineage, there was a spell that was cast against men, like a really potent, awful spell. And that created this like domino effect through the female side of her family of spite.
Spite. It was named spite.
Spite, the energy of like spite, of just like hate towards men, but hate like punishment, but like love me, don't love me, seduction. Mm-hmm. As a side note, The Art of Seduction, great book. Kind of really can get you clear on this type of stuff if it is in your family as well. And so what happens is that's how powerful choice is it becomes a thing. Thoughts become things, meaning that when you have those choices, if you cast a spell like that, or you have this negative, deep energy, it can turn into an entity into itself. It can turn into almost like a being of darkness and itself. So that was clear. I was like, this happened, choice was made, ran through your family, clear that lineage, open you up to step in to be the person, because this, in the Navajo, the sins of the father, right, are passed to the son, and they believe it's 7 generations back, right? For 7 generations. Again, as an aside note, constellation therapy or Hellinger therapy helps clear that kind of stuff. So that's some of what was happening. We lifted that in 48 hours, and now this person's starting to take the steps to really like face it, to finally be fearless and face it. And that is creating the transformation. And that's where I come in as a counselor, because if you start a process like that, this is where I see psychics all the time drop the ball.
Right,
you have like an hour, you have all this like information comes through, but what's that person's, how are they supposed to integrate it back into their life? I've
seen a ton of that myself.
Yeah.
It's irritating.
Well, it kind of perpetuates addiction, because then there's that person is now disempowered because they're reliant on the psychic. Right.
Well, it also brings up this whole thing of workshop junkies, right? Oh, she's laughing, but you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yes.
They just that's an addiction.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because I think that when there's a joke my friend told me, when you're a conduit, you conduit. You can do it.
You conduit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're all endowed with the capacity, and we are all working with this thing called time. Mm-hmm. It's one of the great equalizers. So,
fascinating.
Yeah.
So that was a really good example. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You want to talk about, light worker. Mm-hmm. Light work can get a little heavy.
Light work can get, yes. Yeah. And so, I think that's the thing that would be the wish that I would have for everybody, is when they're looking at their addiction, that the addiction is kind of a perpetuation of shame. Like, I am bad. or guilt, I have done something bad. If you can even get from shame to guilt, you're still up a level, right? But that I'm just not worthy of this life, or the self-esteem issues, or whatever it is, and that's a big part of it.
That's great. So I'm just sort of curious, the work of Byron Katie?
Yes.
Which I absolutely love, and Brene Brown?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
So how does what you do intersect with those two?
Well, what I know Byron Katie is most famous for is this true?
Can you absolutely know this is true?
Can you know this is
the
true?
The 4 questions.
The truth.
Yeah. Sorry.
Truth feels a very particular way when it's spoken. I do just recognize this. And
say that one more time.
Truth feels it just feels like a yes when it's spoken. It just, you have this just energy in your body that comes when you're like, oh yeah, that's true. And
it's not isolated in the head.
No.
It's whole body experience.
You feel it in the body. It's almost like it's like grounding and releasing at the same time. And I think it got spoken at the center that I work at recently, where a client finally, after all, deflection, denial, faking, blah, 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 bullshit, was finally like, I'm not ready. Mm-hmm. And as soon as it was so subtle that the client didn't even catch it. They were like, I didn't say that. Because the truth was something that was just it was there. And then but you feel it. You feel that truth. So how does truth integrate into what I do? That is very much the relationship is truth and trust and trust and truth. And it's like you have to have an open mind to trust that, like, this lady's not crazy. Angels, what is she talking about with angels? What is she talking about with dimensions? Why does that even matter to me? Screw it. Let's go get some coffee. Right? Let's get legal drugs. Let's ignore any of this. So is this true? Is something that is the guiding light, is the compass for all of us to be able to live our calling, to live our calling, and take us down whatever road we need for our best and highest good, for our learning. And sometimes that road will include the redemption of coming back from using. So, and when it comes to Miss Brene Brown, hi. I follow you on Instagram and everywhere else. Is the most impactful piece of her work, I think, was around courage. Around her, what really launched her was, of course, the TED Talk about studying shame and studying courage, being courageous. And that's very much what we've talked about, is the levels of emotion. How that works is, my intention as a counselor is to provide people with the tools and the knowledge to raise their own vibrations. Raise it up, rise up. So those two in conjunction, Byron Katie, Miss Katie, and Brene Brown together, is how do you take truth from this abstract idea into an application that creates living courageously? Boom.
Love it.
Yeah. So again, the pieces are that you can live free from addiction, in that you create a relationship to harness it in a different direction, right? So it doesn't have to be your master.
Yeah, and I've heard it said before by people that are really into addiction therapy and stuff, is you can't really get rid of the energy. It needs to be transformed into something else. So maybe you become, this is simplistic, but you become addicted to something that's healthy. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So in your experience, simple example, maybe not so simple, huh?
No, it's of things that are...
So maybe somebody that had, or a situation where somebody has an unhealthy addiction, and what they do is switch it to something healthy.
I'm going to give a plug to my friend.
Yay. Love it.
Chris Bailey, who...
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris. Who walked across America. He spent his trainwreck 20s having crazy relationships, homeless and part of an affluent family, and then has a twin brother, Bobby, hi Bobby, who found him, went out one day searching for his brother and found him on the streets. He had cut his head open, and they rode out 6 days or some amount of time in a Motel 6, and Chris white-knuckled it and detoxed in that hotel room that week. And then he had to walk to his AA meetings, and he got the inspiration, okay, I'm going to just walk America. I'm going to keep walking. So all last year, he took 7 months to walk from LA to New York. And I talk to him on occasion, and he's like, the largest battle is that with the loud, chaotic mind that's all the critic that's after me, that's like, you're not good enough, you're not whatever. But his transformation is where he used to not be able to sit with discomfort, is now pursuing the knowledge of raising your vibration. He's like, I'm obsessed with self-help. I'm obsessed with that. And he's very much human. He's very much in his healing process. And we have our own little wizard wars when we talk sometimes, because for the most time, he's like, you're always out knowing me. And I'm like, it's not a competition. It sort of is a competition. But that would be my greatest example of taking that spirit of intensity and being intense about, voracious about knowledge, voracious about that. And then I want to add to this is it's really interesting watching his evolution, being witness to it, because he's hitting this point where voracious about knowledge has now come into voracious about feeling. Just feel it. Just feel it. Like speak, still the words, and just like feel the flow. Feel the flow.
So what I'm sort of perceiving this whole thing is in this walk and everything he's doing, he becomes an inspiration for others. If he did it, I can do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's even more than personally taking some addiction and turning it into, well, I'm going to take this meth addiction, I'm going to be the greatest bowler in the world. Or
Right.
I mean, it's
Right.
he's like actually doing something that's inspiring, because obviously that will be in the show notes. Obviously, I'm going to go check him out. Obviously, we'll have a conversation after the show about having him on the show.
Yeah. So
I mean, because I'm all about this. And Lisa Thorpe, I'm just going to love this show.
Woo! Hi, Lisa. Yeah. So the thing I would say about that too is that that's the 12th step, right? So first, my life is unmanageable, step. And then you come into like, now be of service. Like take this now that you've had a transformation, take this message. And something that was pointed out to me is you don't get to skip steps, whether it's in the 12-step process or in your life. When you try to fast track it, you will always, I have never seen a case, I do not know of a case, whether it's Paris Hilton or anybody else, you have to learn at the pace you were meant to learn. But just people that try to skip steps all the time, it's just, I don't know what law is out there, but you can't skip steps, right? And one of the most important steps is like, if you're going to be a light worker, then you are going to be an inspiration. Inspiration simply meaning spirit within us.
Yeah.
You're just going to, and that is my gift, is I speak spirit. I speak spirit.
No,
I translate spirit.
I feel it. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. So we may have covered it and everything.
Everything.
Yeah. Well, not everything, but
take that, Ken Wilber. Theory of everything.
Yeah. So sometimes like to ask, I think you've already said it though, but in terms of health, what is like the number one thing for everyone to know? Or another way to put it is, if there was one thing everybody needed to know or hear, what would it be?
Integration instead of separation. Integration. That your experiences, all of them are valuable, and the tool of integration for those inquiring minds and bodies and hearts that want to know is gratitude.
I love it.
Thank you. Thank you, body. Thank you for waking up today. Thank you for breathing. Thank you, lungs. Thank you for digesting my food. Thank you that I can taste my food. Thank you for hearing this beautiful music. Thank you, even if you have a crippled body or whatever. Thank you for the hug that I can give. Thank you for the smile that I can share. Thank you for the light that's coming into my eyes. Thank you for being a participant in this world. Thank you for, reminding me, as a man thinketh, so is he. Thank you for the depth of relationship and experience I have because of you, body. Thank you. Thank you. And that is one of, and it gets harped on and often, turned into a to-do list. Be grateful, right? Like, get your journals out and write everything down. And for some, that's really helpful. That really does ground it. But ultimately, if you want to move away from the isolation and separation and come into health and come into balance and be in the Tao, is to be, thank you, masculine side of me. Thank you, feminine side of me. Thank you, eternal force. Thank you. Thank you. And again, that's one of the quotes is, if the only prayer you ever say is thank you, that will be enough.
I believe that was Eckhart, Meister Eckhart.
I believe so. Yes. Yeah. And whomever else rebranded it. Yeah.
Including Reverend Christian Sorensen at Seaside. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he wrote about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That would be my health tip above all else is that, and that gratitude, and gratitude requires humility.
Mm-hmm.
It
requires, you sort of have to be on your knees with this one.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
My favorite Christmas song is not played often enough. Oh, Holy Night, which absolutely brings me to my knees.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in the realm of addiction, just saying that the power, the core place of transformation comes through this understanding choice and decision. And I often say, this is my quote, that choice is the God force within. That choice is where we experience that creator, that God inside of us. That the moment we choose, we make a decision to take action. There's nothing more powerful than a human in action. There's no force. And so what I would say is, addiction is really taking ownership of your choices, like the curing of addiction, the transformation of it. So instead of creating hell on earth through the perpetuation of using and those lower vibration energies, is to take full responsibility of your choices, the wild horses that are your choices, right? And to bridle them and get in that, get behind them and
yeah.
And then you have momentum in a completely different direction.
Yeah, I got to say, it's for me, you've turned addiction, looking at and all the rest of it, into something quite exciting in terms of, oh my God, I'm alive. Just feeling alive.
It is a powerful, powerful force, and again, it just lights me up in a way when I get to be able to be the guide, the liaison for people to rise up.
Yeah.
Rise up and do it differently.
Yeah. This is, it's so funny because in life, all of a sudden you start noticing things. So it was the other night was at Seaside Center, was Earth Care. Kelly Sorensen has Seaside Sisters. They did a film screening of This Changes Everything, which was amazing because it was incredibly empowering. But I realized just like global warming, climate change, it's not a problem. It's a new way of looking at everything. It's just like I said earlier, don't want to think outside the box. We're going to have to create a new one.
Yeah. And that's a conversation for another time. I think if we're going to start at the level of addiction and move through, there's some structure that I've created called breakup rehab.
I wanted to talk about that. So let's.
Yeah. So breakup rehab is my book where I took the 12 steps from AA and I rewrote them for people going through breakups because I really saw that need that, and science is really backing me up on this years later, that's saying we go through physical withdrawal when someone leaves our life, when we have a romantic breakup, and specific to romantic relationships for this particular thing. But it's the new 12 steps to start over stronger, to really say, like, to then go through a structured program. Again, you can't skip steps, to start with forgiveness and then understand the ownership and how did I create what I created. And then I would say the biggest part is to surrender to the fact that we all have free will. So if someone's not in your life, if that relationship ended, it was love's way of saying, I'm going to expand further, okay? So the confines of this relationship were fostering, were like dough leavening, right? We're teaching you, and you rose to a certain point. But because love is trying to work and flow through you constantly to bring you to the highest place, if a relationship ends, it's because love is going to flourish and grow. And I reframed being single, because being single just feels bad. It feels bad. It feels like an afternoon in PetSmart being like, which cat this month? Or whatever, as the worn out joke goes. And when you're single, that is love's opportunity to help you practice wholeness, to practice the Tao, to practice the balancing of masculine and feminine. And that is part of the book. And then you go through the rest of the steps to really to be handheld through this process, through the valley of the shadow. I was just thinking of the other night about the stories I'm hearing in rehab from these guys, because they're losing relationships too, right? Sure. It's awkward to find like healthy relationship. And so, I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh, my dark night of the soul looks like has a dimmer switch compared to that. I was like, they have been like lights like out, no stars. And mine, I'm just like, oh, it's just moderately in comparison sometimes. And so breakup rehab, start over stronger, is a course of transformation, really. And it's really to help people use that point in time, that moment, to really become stronger.
Where can they get the book?
It's currently on Amazon right now. Here's the secret.
Oh, I love secrets.
Here's a really great secret. This book is an indie project right now. It's like independent, very underground, and the cover looks a little bit like the zombie apocalypse. I was making design decisions while going through my breakup. So it's like gritty, and it's going to be going away, possibly.
That's a secret?
Yes.
No kidding.
It's going to be going away, in that it's in the process of being pitched to different publishing houses.
Oh,
so
really?
What is if someone wants the pure nature of the indie book
before the editors get to it.
Right. Now is the time to go to Amazon and pick it up.
Or they can get it to you from your website if it goes away?
Yeah, they can.
Don't you have copies in your garage or something?
I don't.
I'm
not hoarding any. So this is a very, very
What, hoarding's not your addiction? No. This one it should be.
No. This is a very special time frame of where if you're in a breakup right now and you want the book, the manual, like it's on, that's where you can get it, is on Amazon.
Okay.
And that's where
and it's
I would
called
say.
What? They search for?
Breakup Rehab, Start Over Stronger.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew that.
Yeah.
I just wanted for Jenny or Fred or whoever's out there, it's like, what did she say? What was the name of the book?
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure they had it,
Breakup Rehab, Start Over Stronger, Amazon.com.
And if they want to get in touch with you on your website, it is?
My website is transformnowcounseling.com.
Transformnowcounseling.com.
Yep, all one word. And And there's lots of exciting changes. We'll revisit this in a different podcast, possibly that are coming up.
I'm inviting you back.
Yay!
Yeah. So what do you want to do next?
If we do the next podcast, it really is going to be diving deep into the elements of breakup rehab, the 12 new steps, and talking about just how powerful of a transition that is. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't want to create any problems, but maybe I should get a copy,
Yes. Of course.
Everybody breaks up.
Of course.
I want to start a relationship just so I can have a deep, profound relationship and then break up so I can use the book. No, I don't think so.
I can't tell you how many people have, they're like, I needed this book 3 years ago, or I needed this book, like whatever.
Yeah.
And it's, I would say, although the title is, specific to that space and time, it's relevant.
Oh, sure.
It's relevant in your growth or your ability to do relationship. But more so, I always tell people, start with the book if that's where you're at in relationship. Mm-hmm. And if you really want to go next level relationship, we'll work together one-on-one. Mm-hmm. That's what's really going to, it's going to make the difference for sure.
So people can get a hold of you there.
Yeah. Right. Transform Now.
Anything else you want to cover?
Not at this point. I just want to send love across the airwaves and say that for everybody that listened, I hope that I received the transmission and that you feel a little bit of a lift and that there's a greater understanding that, there's more to life than one perspective of addiction.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for myself, I am grateful. No, I'm really grateful. Boy, this chance meeting at La Costa Roaster. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm grateful for them.
Yes, yes. I will say the synchronicities abound, and if I gave anybody homework or assignment from this today,
yeah, please,
is that signs are everywhere, synchronicities are everywhere, miracles are always happening. Miracles is defined by any time you choose love over fear. So miracles are ever present. And on the day that I met you, I always go to the same coffee shop, but on that day, the girlfriend I was meeting was like, I don't want to drive all the way down to see you. I was like, fine. I was amenable and just threw on my tracksuit and poof, right?
Yeah.
And it was about following the flow, following the flow. And so what I would say is for you to find the flow, you just have to be here now, right now, right now, and take a breath. And thank you so much for listening.
You're welcome. Come visit us at www.alternativhealthtools.com. Lots of places to interact and leave a message, and I think we're going to have Rebekah back. After this talk with Rebekah, it was really obvious we wanted to go on and do an episode on Breakup Rehab, Start Over Stronger, which is her book, which, by the way, is in limited supply on Amazon. So after listening to this episode here, and you like what you heard, you may want to head over to Amazon and get the book Breakup Rehab, Start Over Stronger, and read it in preparation to our next episode with Rebekah, Part 2. And we will be live blabbing at some point, so if you'd like to find out when that's going to be scheduled, head over to alternativehealthtools.com and opt into the email list. And oh yeah, there's also going to be a Part 3 with Rebekah, coming full circle to what we all want to know about choosing love.